Did you know the Catholic Church is standing at a crossroads that could change the lives of over 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide? What if the Church of tomorrow balanced both tradition and transformation? Pope Francis has reshaped the modern Church, but what happens next could take the faith in completely different directions. Will the Church continue its path of greater openness and reform, or will it swing back to more traditional teachings? In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down Francis's enormous impact and why the next papal election might be one of the most consequential moments for Catholics in our lifetime. Imagine walking into a Catholic church just 10 years ago. You'd notice more Latin in the liturgy, priests facing away from the congregation during parts of the Mass, and a focus on traditional hymns. The entire atmosphere felt more formal, more mysterious, and definitely more rooted in centuries-old traditions. Pope Benedict XVI embodied this traditional approach perfectly. The soft-spoken German theologian wore the red papal shoes, brought back ornate vestments, and emphasized the beauty of ancient Catholic rituals. His focus stayed firmly on protecting Catholic doctrine and maintaining the Church's historical positions on moral issues. Benedict's church stressed continuity with the past, the same teachings that had guided Catholics for generations. While many Catholics appreciated this connection to tradition, a growing number felt disconnected from a church that seemed stuck in time. 25-year-old Maria from Boston expressed it this way: "I love my faith, but every Sunday I felt judged for questioning teachings that didn't make sense in my daily life. Eventually I stopped attending altogether." Young Catholics especially questioned the Church's rigidity on issues increasingly out of step with modern life. The traditional Catholic position was clear. Marriage was between one man and one woman, lasted for life, and remained open to children. Divorced and remarried Catholics found themselves cut off from communion unless they received an annulment or lived as brother and sister with their new spouse. This created profound pain for faithful Catholics who simply wanted to participate fully in their faith. For gay Catholics, the situation was even more difficult. Church teaching described homosexual acts as intrinsically disordered. Gay Catholics were told to live lives of complete celibacy, while priests rarely addressed these complex human realities from the pulpit. Vatican power remained incredibly centralized, with Rome making important decisions and giving local bishops limited authority to adapt to cultural contexts. This one-size-fits-all approach created frustration worldwide. Yet many traditional Catholics found tremendous comfort in these unchanging teachings. The Church provided stability in a confusing world. They valued clear moral guidance and respected the Church's steadfastness against cultural trends they viewed as harmful. Then came the moment that shocked the Catholic world. Pope Benedict XVI resigned in February 2013, the first papal resignation in nearly 600 years. Benedict cited declining health, but many wondered if the pressures of leading a global church facing so many challenges had become too much. The Church stood at a crossroads. The pre-Francis Church had built an impressive structure of tradition and doctrine, yet it struggled to speak to modern believers who often felt judged rather than welcomed. Attendance declined in Europe and North America. Young people drifted away. Beautiful theological ideas frequently failed to translate into compassionate pastoral care for those whose lives didn't fit neatly into traditional categories. This tension between timeless teaching and contemporary needs created a church that preserved its heritage but sometimes failed to reach people in their pain. The foundation remained solid, but the bridges to modern culture needed repair. When Pope Francis asked, "Who am I to judge?" about gay Catholics in 2013, did you realize you were witnessing a turning point in church history? That simple question shook the foundations of how the Catholic Church approached LGBTQ+ issues. In just 7 words, Francis signaled a dramatic shift in tone that would define his entire papacy. Unlike his predecessors, Francis brought a completely different perspective to the papacy. He wasn't a European academic or Vatican insider. He was a Jesuit from Argentina who had lived among the poor and experienced the messy realities of everyday Catholic life in Latin America. Francis had spent years riding public buses in Buenos Aires rather than being driven around in luxury cars. Many traditional church leaders were stunned by Francis's new priorities. They expected another pope who would focus primarily on defending doctrine and maintaining traditions. Instead, they got someone who said, "I prefer a church which is bruised, hurting, and dirty because it has been out on the streets." Francis wanted Catholics to focus less on rules and more on helping people in need. Francis broadened the Church's focus to tackle major global issues. His encyclical Laudato Si made care for the environment a core Catholic concern, linking climate change to the suffering of the poor. He visited refugee camps, washed the feet of prisoners, and stressed the Church's duty to serve those on the margins. In Lampedusa, he embraced migrants who had nearly died at sea, giving faces to what many saw as just statistics. For divorced and remarried Catholics, he created pathways for them to receive communion again in some cases. A meaningful change for people who had felt excluded for years. Francis changed how church decisions get made. He's pushed for a synodal approach, getting input from regular Catholics rather than just having bishops make all the decisions. Like renovating an ancient cathedral to let in more light without compromising its structure, Francis preserved church teachings while creating spaces for new voices to be heard. The practical changes Francis made were significant. He lives in a simple apartment instead of the lavish papal palace. He's appointed cardinals from countries that never had them before, shifting the Church's center of gravity toward the global south. He's tackled corruption in Vatican finances, something previous popes struggled to address. Francis shifted the Church's public image. He positioned the Church as a global force for compassion, environmental protection, and economic justice. His outreach to other faiths has built bridges with Muslims, Jews, and other Christian denominations. But what happens when a pope's fresh approach challenges centuries of tradition? Francis's reforms have sparked both renewal and resistance within the Church. Did you know there's a growing movement of Catholics who believe Francis has gone too far and are actively preparing for a very different kind of pope? While many Catholics love Francis's warm, inclusive approach, others worry that something essential about their faith is being lost. They fear the Church is sacrificing timeless truths to become more popular in modern culture. For conservative Catholics, the Church functions as a moral compass pointing due north regardless of cultural winds. They believe the Church's job is to remain a steady moral voice amid shifting cultural trends. Cardinal Raymond Burke, one of Francis's most vocal critics, has expressed concern that the Pope's teachings might appear to be in conflict with the Church's constant teaching. A sentiment that resonates deeply with traditional Catholics who prioritize doctrinal consistency. Their concerns span Francis's entire reform agenda. They see his openness to communion for divorced and remarried Catholics as undermining marriage teaching. His welcoming tone toward LGBTQ+ individuals raises questions about Catholic sexual ethics. Even his environmental focus appears to some as diverting attention from core moral issues like abortion and religious freedom. This resistance has become organized and influential. 4 cardinals formally challenged Francis with dubia questions about his teachings on divorced Catholics. Books criticizing Francis have become bestsellers among Catholic readers, while websites like LifeSite News and Church Militant have built substantial followings by advocating for traditional approaches. The revival of the Latin Mass among younger Catholics illustrates this conservative counter-movement. Traditional parishes offering pre-Vatican II worship have grown during Francis's papacy, attracting families who value clear moral guidance, reverent worship, and continuity with Catholic heritage. Conservative Catholics desire a future pope who reaffirms traditional teaching while maintaining Francis's pastoral warmth. Their theological position is straightforward. Certain church teachings remain immutable regardless of cultural shifts. They point to Jesus' words on marriage, the Church's consistent sexual ethics teaching, and 2,000 years of Catholic tradition. This conservative vision contrasts sharply with Francis's approach. Where Francis emphasizes pastoral flexibility, conservatives favor consistent application of rules. Where Francis adopts a "who am I to judge" stance toward LGBTQ+ Catholics, conservatives advocate for clear moral teaching. Where Francis has discussed women deacons, conservatives view the male-only priesthood as unchangeable divine law. Many conservative Catholics believe Catholicism's very identity hangs in the balance. They fear a church reflecting contemporary values loses its distinctive purpose, offering unchanging moral truth in a relativistic world. With these two divergent visions for Catholicism, what might happen when it's time to choose a new pope? The Catholic Church is at a genuine crossroads right now. Francis has changed so much, but will his vision continue, or will the Church swing back toward tradition? It's fascinating to see how he's reshaped the College of Cardinals, the very group that will choose his successor. He's appointed cardinals from Africa, Asia, and Latin America who might share his reform-minded approach. Where do you find yourself in this spiritual tension? Does your soul resonate with timeless traditions that anchor faith through centuries? Or are you drawn to a church that evolves with today's challenges? This pivotal moment reveals the essential journey all spiritual paths travel, balancing ancient wisdom with present reality. How will your faith find its way forward? Now that Francis has passed, all eyes are glued to the news to see which direction the Catholic Church will go in the very near future. Stay tuned and stay blessed by the best